My name is Phyllis Hayashibara. I was born on December the 8th, 1951.
Okay, and I know that you have not lived in Venice, but can you please talk about what year you first came to Venice and what brought you?
I started teaching at Venice High School in 1985. I taught in the social studies department. So I taught U.S. history and world history mainly. It was the first school that I thought I should stay here forever because the students were third and fourth generation students, families who had gone to, their grandparents had gone to Venice High School. And it was a wonderful community of teachers. There was great camaraderie among the staff. They didn't have too many new teachers at one time because people tended to stay at Venice High School for their careers.
Why do you think the staff at Venice High School always stayed and didn't have a big turnover?
Well, there was a vice principal who opened every faculty meeting with, "Welcome to the best kept secret on the West Side," which is Venice High School. Venice High School had a reputation of being a gang-related school. So before I went for my interview, I asked a gal I knew there, I said, "How are the gangs?" She goes, "What gangs? They leave that stuff at home." And they do. I mean, they're third generation gang member families too, but it's kind of like neutral ground, Venice High School. Well, it was at the time that I was there. The students at Venice High School are very kind and generous and friendly. I had this one horrible student, he was Latino, and he was the leader of the let's get Mrs. Hayashibara to lose her cool. So he would say something and then the whole class would burst out into laughter. His name was Rene. He would say things that would almost make me cry because I would spend one evening like calling parents to talk about their children's bad behavior, and then in the classroom he goes, "Oh, you had nothing better to do last night, huh, Miss Hayashibara?" calling all the parents. And I was thinking, I had a lot of better things to do. Turns out Rene was a sweetheart. He was a talented artist, and I encouraged him to apply for one of the, it was an art contest for women, I think it was Latina women in the media. And he did this great sketch of, it was Gloria Molina. So I had him when he was in 11th grade, and then I got to know him better when he wasn't in my class. And we had this wonderful conversation outside my door. He's talking about his mom's Mexican cooking. He goes, Mexican cooking is really loud. I'm trying to do my homework and psh, she's throwing stuff into the hot oil. And then he's going shopping with his mom for pants, and she says, "Oh, mijo, you don't want these big pants. They look so big." He goes, "No, Mom, that's what we want. I want big pants." And I just got to know him better, and I started inviting him to go with me to the art museums. But I lost touch with him after about 4 or 5 years. What happened was one day, I always work late at school, correcting papers and getting ready for the next day. And so one day I came out of the parking lot, and I was like one of the last cars left in the parking lot. And he comes up to me with this giant bouquet of flowers. I said, "Miss Hayashibara, I'm going to graduate from Santa Monica College." He wanted me to come to his graduation because he felt I helped him in some way, even though I felt like I was fighting with him all the time. I retired from Venice High School in 2011, which was the centennial of the school. And I thought that would be a good time to retire. Before I retired, in 2009, another memorable student named Scott Pine brought in for current events discussion a copy of the Free Venice Beachhead. And on the front cover was the pink tinged photograph of the Japanese Americans standing up in line along Venice Boulevard in front of that brick building that still stands at the corner of Venice and Lincoln. And the article was by another young man named Scott Ueda, who has since passed away. But he wrote about his family's experiences with the forced removal and incarceration. So in that Free Venice Beachhead, there's a little blue box that said, "Lest we forget. Readers, please send an email to your council member, Bill Rosendahl of the District 11 on the City Council, and ask for his support for some kind of a permanent marker to mark where the Japanese Americans in Venice, Santa Monica, and Malibu had to line up for transport to an American concentration camp. Turns out that was to go to Manzanar. So we did that. We sent letters to Bill Rosendahl, or emails, and then we CC'd them to the Free Venice Beachhead. So that was in April when Scott brought in the Free Venice Beachhead. And in June, the Free Venice Beachhead printed every single one of those students' letters. And then that brought us to the attention of Emily Winters, who is a Venice activist and artist. She's a co-founder of the Venice Arts Council. And she said, can we get together at school and have your people meet my people? Okay. I don't have any people, but sure, come. So I met Emily Winters and Suzanne Thompson, also of the Venice Arts Council. And we talked about how we can make this a reality. How can we do a permanent marker to remind people that we shouldn't round up people without any due process? And I picked out one letter from Felix, who in his letter, he asked for support for a permanent memorial or marker so that this would never happen again. And he said, I picked his letter because he said this. He said, as time goes on, people forget what happened. And if we don't memorialize that corner, people will forget it ever happened here. So we had a press conference on that corner, and Bill Rosendahl spoke about the need for some way to commemorate this corner for the Americans of Japanese ancestry who were taken away. About 1,000 families, 1,000 people from Venice, Santa Monica, and Malibu were rounded up and told, well, they weren't rounded up. They went voluntarily because of the civilian exclusion orders were tacked up on telephone poles, and the Japanese Americans complied. They went to the civilian control station to report and get their identification tags with numbers, and they voluntarily reported with only what they could carry in their big duffel bags or foot lockers to that corner. So there are civilian exclusion orders up and down the coast from Washington through California. Well, after the students went to City Hall, and after their letters were published in the Free Venice Beachhead, then I met with the Venice activists, Emily Winters and Suzanne Thompson. It started there, and it happened to be September 11th, 2010, and people brought money to donate to us then. We didn't even have a design, but we got together and we were talking about, somebody said, well, why don't you put a bronze marker on the sidewalk? And we said, well, then no one would see it. And then we had different kinds of designs that were like a desktop with a bronze, slanted plaque. And then we were worried about anything bronze would be stolen for the bronze. And then two of the members of the committee, Yoshi Tomita drove Arnold to that first meeting, and he said, oh, hi, I'm Yoshi, I'm Arnold's chauffeur. But it turns out Yoshi Tomita is a great member of the VGM committee too. And he said, why don't we make it in the shape of the obelisk at Manzanar Cemetery? And we started fundraising from the very beginning. And we dedicated on April the 27th, 2017. So it was about 7 years that it took us to get to that point. VGM stands for Venice Japanese American Memorial Marker. And VJCC stands for Venice Japanese Community Center. Venice is a very unique community. When I was driving over here, you cross Lincoln going west and suddenly you know you're in Venice because there are grown men skateboarding on the street. And there are people trundling their shopping carts full of their belongings across the street. Not even at the crosswalk, just wherever they want to cross. The pedestrians rule in Venice. When you're in Venice, it's a kind of a bohemian area. Even though there's a lot of gentrification going on, it's still a community of people, I think, that the people in Venice revel in that community. And when Warren Funitani spoke one time, he spoke at the dedication, he said, this monument's going to be vandalized, it's going to be marred, it's going to be graffitied. Let it stand to let people know that discrimination and prejudice are not dead, they're still here. So Suzanne followed up his remarks by saying, with all due respect, Warren, we're going to clean it off. And but he loves coming to Venice because he's kind of like a Venice character himself. He's outspoken, He's not worried about what other people are thinking about him. He says what's on his mind. And that's how people in Venice are. They don't care if they're not living up to someone else's standards. They live the way they want to live. And it makes for a great beach community.